I've felt very guilty for the last little bit. I think I've done all of you a bit of a disservice by oversimplifying a topic that's really nuanced and is a fascinating topic anyway. And so when this post came up on Reddit and I read it, I've been trying to work through my modern, updated thoughts just for the past few weeks. What is the biggest mistake small Twitch streamers make? Everyone talks about how to grow on Twitch, but what do you think is the biggest mistake holding small streamers back? For me, I think a lot of people focus too much on overlays and not enough on entertaining content. What's your take? And then a lot of the answers in the community are super valid, actually super interesting. I'd recommend you read it. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But my answer has never changed over the past few years. In fact, my answer is still the same today. And I think that that's a little bit of a problem. I think it means I've done something wrong because social media isn't the same as it was 8 years ago. Twitch is not the same. YouTube is not the same. My answer should not be the same, but I've always said that the best way to grow on Twitch is to make content on more discoverable platforms so you can build your audience that will come and watch you on Twitch. Do you hear a problem with that? I hear the problem with that. The problem is it's really vague. Like how, where, what does that mean? What do you do to do that? How do you do that? And by the way, the thing that original poster mentioned on Reddit about overlays, totally true. Don't go and spend too much time and money on your overlays when you can find exactly what you need at own.pro, where you can buy alerts, overlays, widgets in minutes. Some are even totally free. No subscription is necessary, but if you're someone that likes to update your overlays regularly, they do have a subscription model that gives you a ton of access, including the ability to create your own custom widgets with simple AI prompts. Do you want something like a sub goal widget or a simple timer? Just type it in. They upload new designs weekly, including special overlay packs for new game releases. So thank you own.pro for sponsoring this video. If you're looking for overlays, check out the link in the description below, because if you use that link, it supports the channel. So thank you. And if you've been here a while, you may have noticed I don't really like giving advice on this channel anymore. I don't really know when I stopped. Probably around the time I became a parent, like 4 years ago, and I realized that I knew very little, but I've also been deep on the inside of the professional content creation space for a very long time. I have a tendency to experiment and to take heavy risks, more than would be considered responsible, meaning I have more than your average YouTuber's share of weird success stories, and also way more than my fair share of failures. So we're just gonna pretend that this is not an advice video. I'm just uploading my experience, my consciousness into our collective hive mind. So, you know, I'm not the only one learning from these experiences, because what a waste that would be. That's a funny paragraph, but I am a little concerned. And I do really hope that the deep dive into this question and talking about what's really required to make it doesn't discourage any of you, even though I know that it will. Most people only succeed on social media one time. They have one successful career, because usually once they're in there and they're able to look back on their path to success with the clarity of hindsight, they realize like how much the planets aligned and really how much of it was just luck. Prime example of this, my parents really don't like when I say that I got lucky. My parents are super supportive of me. They love me. They're also boomers. They came from the pull yourself up by your bootstraps era, and because I succeeded, it must be because I pulled harder on my bootstraps. But I got really lucky. What's the phrase people say about luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's what luck. You know, you've all heard that one. And there is usually truth in that statement. Like, I was more prepared than most because my previous careers and efforts before it. I also saw an opportunity that very few people had seen, but it still has to work out. You can do everything right and still fail. Like, that's just how life works. But I got really lucky. Like, my YouTube origins are weird. My wife and I originally blew up on Vine playing music together. We had a song go totally viral. Second most watched Vine on the entire app. We went from 1,000 followers to over 1 million followers in like a month and a half. And half of the truth that I like thinking about more is that we did a ton of preparation for this moment. I spent 4 hours editing that Vine, and I just spent 8 months learning the motion graphics software that I used to make that Vine. I worked harder on that one Vine than I would venture anyone has worked on a Vine ever. But there is another half to the truth. Vine blew up like a couple months later. We got in early and the wave took us with it. Also, that Vine performed really poorly for the first like 12 hours, which is usually the lifespan of a Vine at the time. Someone huge shared it the next morning and it just totally took off. There's no bootstraps you can pull hard enough to make those kind of things happen. And if neither of those things had happened, I would not have a YouTube career today. So the lesson here is this. If working harder than everyone else in your industry gives you a slim chance of success, then not working harder than everyone else in your fields I mean, you can probably autocomplete that sentence for me. If you're trying to grow on Twitch or YouTube or any social media platform, doing the extra things like cutting up more discoverable clips to post on things like TikTok and whatever, that's not a secret code that guarantees the success. That's the bare minimum. The extra is not extra. Over 30% of kids nowadays say that they want to be a YouTuber or some kind of content creator when they grow up. The competition is fierce, you guys. What I'm not saying is that most of you will fail, but a select lucky few of you will succeed. What I'm really saying is all of you will fail. That's just how the first idea works. It doesn't. One of my favorite pastimes is go to the channel of some of my favorite YouTubers and look at their very first videos, especially like OG YouTubers, because almost never is their first video anything like their current successful stuff. This channel, originally called the Alpha Gaming Channel, was a team channel that played Halo together. I found an investor, I paid the players, we rented a house for a summer, and I could tell you all about how terrible that summer was. But when that idea inevitably didn't pan out, I continued the channel myself and I started streaming daily. I tried switching to Mixer for a little bit. I streamed there like 5 hours a day for 3 months. I mean, I tried everything I could possibly think of. And it was just a 4-year sequence of failure after failure. I think people see YouTube success or any type of content success as being the best, making the best videos, making the best live streams, you do the best, you succeed. While I've started to understand YouTube as more of a battle of attrition, like it's not about being the best, it's about who's willing to go the longest before giving up. Because when this channel did finally take off, like it would have been so easy to credit my work ethic or my unique skills or my understanding of the industry, you know, the way my parents would like to talk about the channel. Like the channel just made sense. Most people at the time were still using webcams, headset mics. I'd been developing my video and audio skills, producing really good, in my opinion, at the time. Producing music videos to the best of my ability. I think I was the first person on Twitch to plug a DSLR into a capture card to use it as a webcam. And doing things like that helped build my reputation as some kind of expert on the channel. But it's easy to ignore the 4 years of failure that came first. Now, again, I would like to clarify what I'm not saying here. What I'm not saying is, hey, if you've been streaming to an empty chat room for 3 years, give it 1 more year and things will change. It's a battle of attrition. What I'm saying is a lot of creators start creating one thing and then they keep making that one thing forever and they're unwilling to accept that maybe that one thing doesn't work and we've got to try something new. It requires this weird dichotomy of being incredibly impatient with your ideas and jumping from new idea to new idea to new idea while also being inhumanly patient with yourself and your success and your career as a whole. And that combination of those polar opposites, it's really, really hard to learn. But here's the thing, there's a third thing that gets overlooked or done wrong by almost everybody, myself included. And I even think most of the creators that get it right accidentally. It's just a really hard thing to manufacture. So a mantra is like a personal resolve or a statement that sounds really profound, but it doesn't actually mean anything unless you really dissect it. Things like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. They're meant for bumper stickers and selling overpriced online courses. And my meaningless mantra has always been that people watch videos, but people follow people. And I promise you that statement on its own means nothing. It just sounds really wise. But the idea is that you can make beautiful, exciting, entertaining live streams, videos, any kinds of content. You can even build a substantial audience, but the people will move on to the next shiny new thing as soon as they see it. There are endless, beautiful, entertaining videos on YouTube. The bar is insanely high and it's never been easier to make them. So if you want people to subscribe after the very first video, to show up for every single video you make, and then still be around 5 to 10 years later, you have to hit an emotional connection. And that I don't mean you have to have a parasocial relationship. It just means you have to give them a why. Why do they watch? Why do they hope that you're there every time they open Twitch or YouTube or TikTok? And more importantly, that why is not something the viewer creates on their own. That why comes from you, and that why relates to the viewer. You have to have a why in your content. And I think an example will explain this better than just sounds coming out of my mouth. Imagine a channel that gives everyday tutorials on things a person might not know, but they need to know. Home repair, budgeting. It seems like a good idea. It's very broad, very useful videos, applies to almost anyone. Now, imagine a channel started by a man who grew up without a father. Didn't have anyone to teach him how to shave or how to tie a tie. And he decided that he wanted to be that father figure for all the kids growing up without a dad today. This channel is called Dad How Do I, and his fourth most popular video is just called I'm Proud of You. I just described the same channel in two different ways, the same content in two different ways, but one has a really good reason to exist. One is something you think about, and it's something you tell your friends about. Being able to answer the question of why your channel exists is a really good litmus test for why people will keep clicking on your content. But anyway, this is one of my favorite topics. I could probably continue yapping about it for another couple hours, but I won't. These are my 3 things I think most starting creators do wrong. Okay, bye.